presentation. I'm a little under the weather, so if I sound a little gravelly, I do apologize for that in advance. Also, if the audio quality is terrible, please let me know. Sometimes it switches between our HD camera's mic and the actual built-in mic. The built-in mic is awful, and their HD camera makes it a bit better. So this is one option available. I'm going to see if I can show you the files. There we go. There's a shared files option. Okay. So I'll just move that back. What's that in front of? In front of the chat. Okay. Yes. I totally know what I'm doing. Okay. So there we go. You folks should be able to see that now. And I'll add the files here, which makes sense. And then the interviews with CJSW and CFUZ that also came up. Okay, awesome. So feel free to give that a read in your own time. Also, if you have any questions at any point, drop a message in the chat box, and I'll be able to check it as we go along. I've got a couple of different tools to be able to do that. So I'm just going to wait to make sure that, yep, okay, good, the screen sharing still working. So we're going to switch to the desktop. So now you should be able to see my desktop. If you can't see it, please let me know. The link to the Prezi, on the off chance that you don't actually see it, is in the chat. So please follow along if you can. Have this up in the corner so that I can keep an eye on the chat. There we go. So cool, awesome. Yeah, that's good. All right. So today's webinar, which is our 5th webinar, is on funding drives and radiothons. It's a bit surprising that we haven't done this sooner, given just how important funding drives and radiothons are to our sector. The average income for funding drives and radiothons ranges anywhere from about 5,000 to, at the highest end, 250,000. And for an individual station, that could range from less than 10% of funding to around a third of the funding. So their ability to operate depends quite heavily on these funding drives and radiothons. I recently attended a station in Toronto, new station that was operating off of grants and ad sales, and had no idea that this was an option available. Some of the questions that are related to this, let's say you have, this isn't in the presentation, so I'm just going to say it now. Let's say you have a large donation and somebody wants a tax receipt. I think there are only 4 of our stations which currently have charitable status, and that's broadly being grandfathered because the Canadian Revenue Agency does not feel that doing community radio is a charitable act, which makes it impossible almost for us to get charitable status. Just have a look and check to see if. Okay, good. We're still going. So it's difficult for you to give charitable receipts. However, we are looking at the NCRA at options. We're looking on working with various funds to be able to partner up and possibly create a clearinghouse fund so that we can issue charitable receipts on your behalf. These are all things that we're hoping to get more detail on in the next year or so, which may hopefully help you folks. We're also looking at setting up, or we're looking into setting up a website similar to CJSW. CJSW currently owns fundingdrive.ca, I believe, and we're looking at purchasing Radiothon.ca, which will essentially operate as a way of various radio stations to be able to direct people to donate online. So if you don't have the capacity to donate online yourself, this website will kind of house that capacity for you. So I have a live. Almost give or take. No, that's not it. Sometimes I don't entirely believe that this is working, so I'm just going to double check. Okay, still okay. In some of our early webinars, it wasn't, so you'd have to excuse me for having a degree of pessimism. Okay, here we go. So this is the Prezi. We're a big fan of Prezi here, so if you're more than welcome to it. It is also going to be embedded into our members only section. Please check it out. All of our webinars are in there. So the big questions are when you're setting funding drive. How often should you have a funding drive? You want to strike a balance between tackling things such as donor fatigue. People are kind of sick to the back teeth of constantly donating, and simply not asking enough. You might be surprised at how much people are willing to donate. Then you have to look at how people donate. Really understand who your audience are. Who are your listeners? Are they have a lot of third language programming, and is that third language communities listening to it online or through podcasting? Do you, such as Boomer FM, have a much larger older population, in which case you want to have a capacity to take telephone calls? These are a lot of really big questions. How do you engage with your station's donors? So is it a case of, donate to us, please, thank you very much, and that's it? Or is there a bit more care and attention, and how do you choose what to do? At that point, you have to balance staff capacity and volunteer capacity with what you would like to happen. And then how do you strike a balance? How do you keep doing good radio, but also do a successful radiothon? This is something that you as a board or staff or a team of volunteers need to really figure out how to strike that balance. And how do volunteers participate? Are your volunteers sort of voluntold to do phone shifts or do events, or is there a lot more leniency? So just how engaged are your volunteers in the process? So frequency and length. CJSW-FM traditionally only does one funding drive. However, they wanted a new tower, and they also needed to sustain their station. We spoke with CJSW-FM, and although they managed to raise 60 grand for the tower, they were very skeptical of being able to make another 60, and they very much achieved it, which is phenomenal. In just 8 days, they hit 65 grand. CKCU holds their funding drive over 1 week. Sorry, not over 1 week. They held it over 2 weeks, once a year, and they raised over 134,000 in 2014. They've been seeing growth between 5 and 10% each year for the last several years, and that's been due in part due to a lot of evolving programming. Okay, CHUO recently did extensive studies into what people in the sector are doing. Unfortunately, and the CHUO is incredibly busy, obviously preparing for incoming students and the NCRA conference, which is coming in. So we don't actually have that research with us right now, but as soon as we get it, we will distribute it, and you folks can look at what other people are doing. The reason we have this slide here is that folks across the country are looking at different times. Some keep it short and snappy at 8 days, some are 14, some are 14 but over 2 weeks in, let's say, the fall and the spring. you want to look at what does your calendar look like? What would work best for your community? If you're in an urban center, what are the other local stations in your area doing? You don't want to be on at the same time as somebody else. If you're in a rural area, you don't want to compete with the local radiothon for a hospital drive, for example, or you don't want to be competing against a telethon. You want to try and carve out your own little space of time, just to really get the most bang for your buck. Knowing who your donors are is absolutely fundamentally key. We suggest that the radio stations that we have gather as much information as they can. Interestingly enough, having a funding drive creates this information. So you can get various demographic data during the funding drive process, so you can find out how much people are donating, by what are they donating, if they phone and donate, if they donate over the phone, what's the average donation size, which is usually actually higher than online donations. Online donations are typically a bit lower. What are people reacting to? Are there certain shows that are really pushing the telephone? Is that seeing a higher donation rate? There's certain shows that you have that push online. And really analyze, if you've been doing this for a couple of years, and certainly you have that information available, but do a bit of analysis, figure out what works best for your folks, and you'll be able to figure out really a good understanding. As I mentioned earlier, older people tend to prefer the telephone, and it's definitely brings in a large amount of money, so please don't discount it. However, the ability or the capacity to take calls over the telephone has a high setup cost. You have to be able to input information. It has to be secure. It needs to, especially if you're handling credit cards, there is a lot of considerations, and it's certainly not something to look into idly. If this is something that you don't currently do and would like to do, please let us know. Email me at luke@ncra.ca, and we will try and match you with somebody who does telephone-based or takes donations over the telephone. Or if you would like to be able to offer somebody some help, please let us know. I think I've got a message. Let's see what's... No, it says it's still going. Okay, must have been Facebook. Don't tell Barry I'm Facebooking. Okay, there we go. What I thought was really cool was when I, God damn it, let me press it. When I saw, I can't remember if it's CJSW or CHUO, it was somebody, but they had set up a Shopify account where you would list, let's say, if you donate $25, you get a free pen. So on the Shopify account, it would have a picture of the pen, and the product would be called $25 donation. You've got 5 pens, so there's 5 of the inventory available. And it was interesting because it allowed the give back scheme, because a lot of folks either give away CDs or coffee mugs or t-shirts. There was a way of putting it all onto a website that's really user-friendly, because of course Shopify depends on being user-friendly. And they even had an option for you to enter your own donation amount. Then of course that's not to discount other donation schemes such as PayPal and so on, but particularly if you're looking at prizes and give-backs, then you want to look at other ways of being user-friendly, which could be options such as Spotify. Is everybody doing okay? For me, it's really hard to tell because I can't see the chat or anything, so I'm just going to escape out for a second. If I can. This is, oh, excellent. Okay, cool. I didn't need to go anywhere. You're all good lads. Awesome. Cool. Right. God damn you, Prezi. Okay, give me a second. Prezi's awesome. So you won't be able to hear this, so we're going to actually jump out of here. So that's enough from you. So if we go over here, and I'm going to actually pull up Mike at CJSW, very kindly provided content.
Luke asked me to answer a couple of bigger questions about the CJSW funding drive and how we've been able to make some changes to bring in more money. It all comes down to the money with funding drive, doesn't it? And it should. Everything you're doing should come down to money during funding drive. And so I'm going to give you a couple of tips and some of the changes that we've made in the last 3 years in terms of how to increase our collection rate and also how to increase the overall amount brought in during the funding drive. Of course, all of this comes back, number one, to great radio. And I know that's kind of a cop-out, but it's true. If no one's listening to your radio station, then no one's listening to your funding drive. If no one cares about your radio station because you're not making great content, then no one's going to pony up the dollars when it comes time to support the radio station that one, or maybe, hopefully not, but maybe 1 or 2 times. It's crazy. Don't do it. 2 times per year. Anyway, should we get in with it? Let's start off first with how to increase your collection rate. All right, so I got 5 little tips here for you on how to increase your collection rate, and we'll start off first with a very simple one that probably many of you are all doing: paid pledges. Yes, we take pledges on the phone. Yes, it's a promise to pay the station, but you know what makes it more than a promise? Taking their credit card and then ringing that credit card through. If you take their credit card over the phone or they process that payment online, bonus. That money's in your bank. You don't have to chase anyone for it. And that's it. Collection rate going up. All right, number 2, monthly payment. So we have a monthly installment system that we worked out with our bank. We're with TD. I'm sure you can do it with whoever you want. But the monthly payments program that we have, we break out your pledge into 10 installments over the course of the year. And so those 10 installments are just nicely divided into whatever your total amount is. If you pledge $300, it's going to be $30 a month for 10 months, which is a lot easier to swallow than $300 all at once for many, many people. Collection rate goes up. As a bonus there, the collection side of it kicks in as of November for us, where we do our funding drive in October. We have to have everyone's monthly installment plans set up by the end of November, because the first amount comes out in December. And so that also helps to get people off their butts into the station with that void check and set up in the system, which, boom, collection rate going. All right, number 3, we got outside and extended office hours. So we're open pretty much like 7 days a week for about 2 to 3 weeks after the drive. Late office hours every single day, of course, during the drive, and then for those 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, it's just basically constantly open at the station, except for late night. And people can come in, they can collect their swag, they can come make their payment. We're making it as easy as possible. Yeah, later in that 3-week period, things get a bit slow, but you want to make sure that you're as accessible as possible to get people's money. Okay, so number 4, we've got here programmer thank yous. I actually think that this is one of the biggest ones. We've done it for years, although how strict we've been about it has definitely gone up. It is a requirement of you as a programmer to make phone calls or send emails to everyone who donates to your show. And that has to happen in the week following the drive, preferably actually the day or the day after those pledges came into your program. You call every single donor, you thank them for their donation, and you let them know that we're open for those extended office hours, when they can come in, and it just makes it a nice connection. Plus, that human side. I mean, people are, yes, are donating to the station, but what are they really donating to? The people and the amazing radio that those people make. And so if you can provide them with a touchstone, some sort of connection with that side of the radio, you'll see your collection go way, way up. We even just can track it on a show-to-show basis. Those shows that do that, those shows that don't, there's very few of those anymore. And we can see that, yes, those programmer thank yous are huge for collection. Finally, number 5, we have some phone calls made by the station, not by the programmers themselves, and those go out in November and then again in May of every year. Once again, our funding drive is in the last week of October, and so those calls go out at the end of November, and they're just like, hey, we noticed that you still have an unpaid pledge, or you've paid and you haven't come picked up your stuff, because we want to make sure that people are getting the benefit of their donation to CJSW, wearing our t-shirts, holding our mugs, loving us. That's what we're all about. So we do these 2 calls, one in November. That's usually just forgot about it, I'll be in. And with that, we pair in some extra extended and outside office hours for people to come in and collect their stuff and give us their money. And then in May, again, we do a final call just before we tear everything out of the closet there and the swag is no longer available. So it's the last chance for people to sort of come in and grab their goodies. A lot of that one is people who have paid but haven't picked up their stuff. We just want to make sure we get it into their hands. So that's the service that we do then. It's worth it. Do it all. Collection rate, I think, is the first thing that you should focus on with any funding drive. We've got our collection rate up to 94%. I'd like to see it get even higher. I think that there's always going to be obviously some people that make pledges and then for whatever reason are not able to fulfill those pledges. But for the most part, I think there are a lot of people who want to give you money. Obviously, they phoned in, they made some sort of promise to the station. They want to make good on that promise. You just need to make it as easy and remind them, That's all it comes down to. Okay, collection rate. Get your collection rate up, and then you can focus on this next one. How to increase your funding drive dollars. Yeah, I planned that. Okay, we're going into this. So when I started at the station, the funding drive the year before I started hit 188,000. Since that, in the 3 years that I've been station manager, we've increased that overall by like 33% up to 250,000. We've had 3 of the most successful funding drives in CJSW's history, in campus community radio history. And I've got some tips that I'll throw your way about how to increase those dollars, how to get people to pledge when it comes to funding drive. So I think the first thing is you've got to have a vision. You've got to have a goal. You've got to have something that people can get behind. They can see that thing and they can taste it. They can smell it. It's something big, something juicy. It's something that will make their radio experience better. So for us, in the last couple of years, we had a tower upgrade where we increased the wattage that we're sending out to the Calgary community, making our signal stronger, making it more listenable all around town and outside of town. And then after that, we raised funds for a new website, which is in development and will be dropping soon. And that was a 2-year fundraising project. This year, we've been in our new space now for 5 years. I've got a whole whack of plans for ways to just increase the level of quality of the space. We've got some doors that need replacing. We've got some sound baffling. We had an engineer in here doing all these crazy sound tests. These are things that people can get behind. These are things that will enhance their radio experience. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be something that is crazy. One of the things that we're going to be doing this year with the funding drive that I think is going to be one of the biggest winners, since when I mention it, all of my programmers and all of my listeners that I've mentioned it to go nuts, is we're going to get texting in the booth. You're going to be able to text the exact same number as you phone in for requests and whatever, and and the DJ is going to be able to respond. So it doesn't have to be something big. It just has to be something that will enhance their experience in a tangible way. Think about that. If you're just raising capital funds, oh, this goes into the capital fund. What does that mean, right? Does it mean headphones? I mean, yeah, some new headphones would be great, maybe, and make the radio host able to hear themselves, which could make better radio, but it's not super tangible for the listener. They don't get to see I put my money in, I was a part of it, right? I didn't buy some new wattage for the station, or I didn't help make that new thing happen. It's got to be new. It's got to be a growth for the station, and then people will get behind it. After that, you need to make sure that that message is consistent with all of your DJs. I've mentioned it before. We meet with every single programmer one-on-one. I meet with them one-on-one for about half an hour each, and that is to get them on message. There is one message during that funding drive, and it is this. Whatever that is, we're raising money for the tower, we're raising money for the space, whatever. I want them to all be on the same message. They can take from it and change it and play on it how they will to, because they want to personalize that message, but you want to have a consistent message, and you want to make sure that all of the information that your hosts need to get that message out there, they are provided with. So that's where those one-on-one meetings really hit home. On top of that, every year we usually have a slogan that kind of somewhat ties to the funding drive goal. So, for example, when we were raising money for the tower, it was radio science. For the year after that, when we were raising money for the funding, or for the website, it was worldwide radio. We've got these little taglines. This year, it's next level radio. We're up in our space. Next level. It's fun. It's fun. And with that, it comes through everything. It comes through the swag that we produce. But the one thing that we started about 3 years ago that I'm really happy about is jacking up the sound of our drive. So we do a lot of pre-production work for little bumpers that happen at various levels. So we break ours down to every $5,000 that gets raised. There's a new little audio tidbit that gets played on the air, a little stinger that's super fun, keeps people engaged. It's on message, it's on point, it's fun, and it just keeps the momentum of the drive going. So really focus on your on-air sound. Think about what you can do in the planning stages and in the preparation of your DJs to make sure that that on-air sound is as positive and fun and exciting as possible. And I think a lot of that can come down to pre-production work. I'll jump it back. I mentioned swag. Swag is a big part of CJSW's funding drive. We don't do any of the we don't have charitable status. We're not able to do receipts. So for us, it comes down to thank you gifts. I mean, obviously, the thing they're pledging for, great radio, number one, like I said right at the top. But when it comes down to a nice thank you gift, you want to make sure that the thing that you're giving them, it's not junky. It's not going to sit at the bottom of their drawer. It's got to be the best T-shirt they have, the best hoodie they have, the mug that they want to drink their coffee out of first thing in the better cup that makes them think about your station every single morning. So spend a couple extra bucks on that swag, and I tell you, it will pay off in spades. You will see people all over the street wearing your gear, and what's the point of producing it if you're not actually going to have it on people's bodies or in their hands or whatever? If you're going to produce it, don't make it junky. We had some problems in the past where people got some stuff that they literally were throwing out in the garbage as soon as they walked out of the station. They were super nice to us when they got it, and then they just tossed it out. You want to make sure, cut down the number of levels if you have to, and produce really high-quality things that they will want to wear every day, that you will want to wear every day. I joke sometimes that my contract at CJSW requires me to wear at least 2 pieces of CJSW swag every single day. I'm wearing a hat right now. I'm wearing a sweater, and underneath that, a T-shirt from CJSW, and they're all the highest quality garments that I wear. Of course, I'm not a super fashion-forward person, but still, you get the point. Okay, we're going to move into those levels now. You got to focus on what these levels are. Back in the day, we used to have packs. At this level, you got this pack, but when you got to the next level, it had this pack, but some other things were dropped out of it. Some of them were in it. It was really confusing. You got to remember, we're on the radio. This isn't, we've got a website where you can view it all and whatever, but you still have to talk about this stuff on the radio. And if you make your packages super obtuse and changing all the time, it becomes really hard for your folks on the phone, for your DJs to get that message out, for your listeners to retain that message. So instead, focus on developing simple stacking levels. What I mean by that is, for us, the Funding Drive Friends card comes in at $30. Any pledge over $30 and you're walking away with a Friends card. Bump that up to $75. You get this year's t-shirt, branded with this year's message. That's another thing. I think a lot of, this is as an aside, I don't know, do I have a little Sam? That's we'll go with that as the aside sound. Aside, make sure you've got new swag from year to year. Don't keep using the same swag. I talked to so many stations where it's like, yeah, we got our branded shirts with our logo on it. Okay, so I donated for it once. Do I really want to have like 2, 3? How many of these t-shirts am I going to get? So at some point you've sort of maxed out their want for those things. And as much as it comes down to radio, people want to get a nice thank you gift. And if it's the same thank you gift every time, they're going to check out. So, okay, let's get back to the goods. We're talking about those simple stacking levels. 75 is the t-shirt with that year's artwork. For us, we just dropped the CD, which we had at the $120 level. It wasn't really, you gotta be crunching those numbers, seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. We just dropped that level entirely. $150, we're bringing in the mug. The mug has been a consistent winner. If you're looking for a relatively cheap to produce and awesome piece of swag, a mug is the way to go. And get good mugs. Get mugs that it's got some heft to it. It's not going to break on people, and it can hold a half a pot of coffee or something like that. That's where you want to be at. For after that, 150, we go up to 200, which is our changing level. This year we're doing toques, some knitted toques. We've got the $365 a day level where we bring in the hoodie, the sweater, whatever the outer garment is of that year. And then 500, we used to do a bunch of artwork, hand silk-screened artwork. They were gorgeous, but I think we're loading up people's walls a little bit too much. So this year we're exploring the idea of doing a bathrobe. Yeah. Right? It's going to be fun. Okay, so that's your simple stacking levels, and at each one of those things, when you're pledging that or higher, you're getting that one. So when people call the line and they say, hey, I want to get a mug, how much is a mug? It's $150 or more. Any pledge of $150 or more, and you're walking away with the mug. Nice and simple. One more here, fundingdrive.ca. We bought it. It goes directly to our pledge portal. You get right into the mix. You can see all of the different swag items that we've got. Make it easy. Remember, you're on the radio. You don't want to be giving out some cjsw.com/funding/drive or whatever. You want to give them one thing that sticks in their mind and they can go to it and it's easy. Whatever that thing is, just make it easy for them to donate online. We've seen a growth of almost 50% in our online donations, and I think that's just getting bigger and bigger every year. So get on it. Okay, now it's time for some bonus tips. That's a terrible one. There we go. Bonus tips. Bonus time. We've got the pre-pledges coming at you. So pre-pledges is key. It's so key. And I know we talk about it and we say, oh yeah, pre-pledges are everything. They really are everything, especially for new programmers who have not developed the relationship with their audience that they need. Those people have to be hitting up their friends and family and the people that care about the things that they do. Because they haven't had the time to develop a relationship with the audience, and even if they have, you're competing really from show to show with those listeners that listen to the station all the time. Even within the genres, the various genres that you're in at the station, if you're a jazz host, you're competing with all of the other jazz hosts for those general jazz listeners' dollars. So get your folks to get pre-pledges. It's so key, especially for those new volunteers. We've got some shows that bring in $4,000 in pre-pledges. They hand out little pre-pledge forms at their workplace and then go around and collect it at the end of the day. As an added bonus, a lot of them actually collect the money at the same time. Up goes your collection rate. It's awesome. Okay, pre-pledges. Do it. Make the form super easy to understand, and you'll see that come back at you in no time. Another bonus tip here. We've got killing your events. I know that seems maybe a little bit backwards. Events bring in money, and money is what Funding Drive is all about. But events also take up a ton of time, a ton of resources. And if you were to think about how much you actually made off of those events, how many pledges would that be? Now, I'm not just bringing it down to dollars and cents. Of course, events have other very important getting the message out there, bringing in new people into the funding drive. But events can be a total time suck. And beyond that, we used to host all of our events during the week of the funding drive. Crazy. Totally crazy. Don't do it. You have a job, and that job is to be at the station and raising money as a station. I'm not saying you personally, but I also am saying you personally. You should be living at the station during the funding drive. It's the best time of the year. Anyway, what you need to do there is focus all of your energy during that week at the station. Don't be having events outside the station where you suddenly have to dedicate volunteer time, staff time, resources. You're pulling attention away from the drive. I mean, just on a surface level, if there are people that used to be listening to the radio, but now they're out at an event, they're no longer listening to the radio. So either kill those events, or what we've done is we killed a bunch of them, and we pulled some of them up before the drive. So in the 3 weeks leading up to the drive, that's when we have our events, which are actually now all programmer events. We don't host a lot of station events anymore. We have a station kickoff to the drive and a station wrap up to the drive. Usually one of those is much more volunteer focused, and then the other is much more public focused. We did the Big Shiny Tunes 2 party last year. It was killer. It brought in a couple grand for the station. We partnered up with Sled Island here in town, split the proceeds 50-50 with them, and they did a ton of the work. We're not in the business of putting on shows. We're in the business of making radio. So what do you know about putting on good shows? You don't. I mean, you might know something, but really, as much as I do, and I don't know that much. So instead, why not work with someone whose job it is to throw events? They know how to get people out. They know who the right bands to book are, whatever those things are. Work with someone who can do it, because there's nothing worse than going to a funding drive event that has nobody there. It makes your listeners feel like, what are they doing? It makes the bar or the venue that is hosting you think, can this station even bring people out to my events, which could have an adverse effect on your advertising. There's a ton of reasons why you want these events to feel good and get people, jazzed. And so if your events aren't doing that, kill them, cut them. Don't worry about it. If it brought in $150, that is literally one pledge, maybe a couple, depending on the amount of your pledges. Which brings me to my final bonus tip: increase your levels. We are all giving away everything we have for nothing. It's true. I came into the station, and one of the first things that I did was I looked at the price of every single thank you gift that we were giving away, the t-shirts, the mugs, etc. I looked at how much those were costing us, and I said, okay, we're not going to spend at the top end any more than 20% of the donation amount in give back value. I've been working hard to try and get that down to 15%. I mean, you can increase your collection rate. That's awesome. You can increase your drive. But another way to just increase the amount of money that you're getting to come into your station is to cut down the costs associated with the drive, or to increase the difference between what those costs are and the bonus, the profit, if you will. So increase your levels. Last year we hit our 30th anniversary. I thought it was a great time to increase our $25 Friends card to $30. Give us $1 for every year we've been on the air, and I'm hoping that basically will just continue to happen. We're not going to $31 this year, but maybe at 35 we'll bump it up to 35. Play around with that. You can play with the emotional tie-ins with your levels, but work on increasing the levels. If you get too stuck over time, there will be a development within the brains of your listeners that a t-shirt equals this amount, and you need to break that. You need to get people into the understanding that overall, over time, things go up. The cost of running your station goes up, the cost of producing these thank you gifts goes up, and you need to make sure that the amount that they're donating goes up as well. All right, I think that's going to do it for me. Thank you all for listening. If you've got any questions, I'm on the chat, hopefully. I recorded this in advance, so hopefully I'm there. Although I should be there. If I'm not there, of course, you can always get at me, manager@cjsw.com, or you can give me a phone call. I like those things, 403-220-3904. Much rather talk these things through on the phone instead of sending 17 emails back and forth. Okay. Thanks all, and happy funding drive. Yeah. Thanks all, and happy funding drive.
All right. So back here at the NCRA office, on the Prezi, we actually have another presentation quite quickly from CFUZ, which is or CFUZ. Which is in Edmonton, in BC. So
Dave Del Rizzo from Peach City Radio, CFUZ in Penticton, British Columbia. Just contributing some thoughts on our funding drive for your webinar on August 7th. Hello to all those listening. Luckily, I'm in Vancouver right now attending the Station Manager Summit, so I'm hoping to glean a lot more mojo, glean some mojo from that event. Our Raise the Radio campaign was planned over a long period of time. We waited a while before we launched it because some of our board members felt that there wasn't really anything tangible to offer. Once we submitted our application to the CRTC for license, those board members relinquished that thought a little bit, and we moved forward. We launched the campaign the day that close to the day that our application was submitted to the CRTC, and it's been going for about almost 9 or 10 months now, very slowly, but steadily. We feel like the brand, we hired an artist, or we paid an artist to come up with the logo, which is an homage to John Cusack, Say Anything. And we just thought, we spent a lot of time designing the program and coming up with the right slogan and the right logo, because we wanted to make sure that the branding fit with our sort of profile, and that it was easy, to put it on different things, to put the logo different places, and to have it appeal in a lot of different situations. What were some of the pros? We're just starting out, and we don't have a station. We don't even have a studio. We don't really have anything except for a board and some members and an online stream. So there's nothing tangible. But ironically, there is something tangible and visual about what we're fundraising for, which is all those physical things that people can then touch and feel and partake in and be a part of. So that's a benefit. And we tried to make it as accessible as possible to the entire community. We designed the levels. There's two halves of it. There's the individual side and the corporate side, or the business side. Because we felt that, not all businesses are going to be able to participate, and maybe some individuals are going to be able to participate, but at lower levels. So it's accessible to a very wide range of people in terms of affordability, right down to the $5 mark where it gets you a sticker, to the $500 mark as an individual, which makes you a founder. And there's some sort of legacy to that. You'll get your name on a plaque in the studio eventually. On the business side, a lot of businesses in Penticton, it's a small town and it's a tourist destination in the summer. So businesses are very seasonal here. And we feel that a lot of people are quite quick to put their hand out for a lot of different things. So we kind of feel that we had to make it a unique pitch. We offer web exposure and all that kind of stuff. And we promised that those who did donate at those levels, those corporate levels, were able to promise them lots of exposure once we are on the air. So it's the promise of radio that is what's drawing people in. And we think that's a good thing. Providing lots of lower level accessibility in terms of affordability is good, because we felt that when we designed the program, that more donations of lesser amounts means more community buy-in. So that's kind of the tie-in there. We want lots of people to get involved from all over, from very diverse areas of the community. And that's what we've seen so far. So we hope to keep it going. We're over halfway. Some people think that our goals were set a bit low, including me. But that was a group decision, and we respect that, and we move forward. Some of the challenges we faced were, of course, finding ways to get the word out without being able to broadcast it over the air. We do have our online stream, but it's a challenge to get people to buy into an online stream when it's an unknown quantity. So we do a lot of social media, and that's how we're forced, and word of mouth. So that's how we're forced to get the word out. It's a little bit of a challenge, but we've done a pretty good job, I think. There's no specific end date, which is a challenge. It's just sort of an ongoing thing. And so it begs a bunch of questions. What happens when we reach our goal? Do we keep going? Do we raise more money, or do we say that's it? So these are some of the challenges we will be facing. And to be quite honest, most of the other station fundraising that we do is a little bit on the back burner, and we're always having to decide whether revenue coming in is going to go and be counted towards this Raise the Radio program, or is it counted as station revenue? And we have to always remember that, this is just a fundraising campaign, albeit a special one because it's early in our existence and it's sort of giving us our seed money. But we still want to make sure that we're sustainable going forward. So we want to make sure we count that revenue that isn't tied to this program. And that's a little bit of a challenge. We count it separately, and that's a little bit of a challenge. I think that's about it. So aside from this program, this Raise the Radio program that we have, we've done a couple of offshoots which have engaged different sectors of the community, and we feel that that's just helped us to bring a lot more tie-in from these different sectors. One of them was the Say Cheese promotion, which we partnered with a local cheesemaker. And, it's one of those things where you tell the community, hey, go buy some cheese during these dates, and a portion of the proceeds are going to go to Peach City Radio. And that was pretty successful. I think we made a couple $100 on that in a week or so. And, the upside of that is you don't have to do much of the work. You just have to engage the partner and figure out the details. And usually the partner does most of the work, and we do a little bit of social media and advertising to drive people to the business. It's a win for the business because they get a little bit of promotion, and presumably they get some, customers being driven for that purpose. So that's good. And that one led to a larger promotion where we started engaging the microbreweries we have here in Penticton. There's 3 of them, and we approached them. We have a large beer festival here in April, and we approached them in late December, early January, and proposed that perhaps if they were interested, perhaps they would donate some portion of growler sales. And for those of you who don't know what a growler is, it's a 64-ounce vessel of beer, which is filled off of a tap in a microbrew usually. And we asked them if they might consider donating a portion of the proceeds from each growler sale during the month of March. All of them jumped on board with this and were very happy to participate. There's lots of pluses all the way around. The margin on a growler is pretty big, so there's room to move there. It's shoulder season here, so there's not a lot of people around, so anything to help drive some customers during those times was good, and we got the word out. We made little countertop promotional things that went into each brewery, and people were able to read it and have a little bit of information about Peach City Radio. And we turned it into a little bit of a competition, a friendly competition. So whichever microbrew sold the most growlers during the month, we awarded them a trophy at this large beer festival that we have, Festival, in April. So that was kind of fun. We made a cool little plaque that hangs on a wall with a microphone as the tap for the beer tap, and we will go and grab that trophy again next year in March if everybody is willing to do it again, and we will do it again. And, we made close to $700 in that promotion. So again, not really doing a lot of work, just sort of sitting back, promising things that are very easy to do. For instance, creating PSAs, doing some interviews, tying them together, making a half-hour show, talking about the local beer industry. It's something we probably would have done anyways. In this way, everybody gets a little bit of promotion out of it. And, we challenge people to take pictures with their filled growlers, and it was a lot of fun. So that was great. And now we've added a little mug promo to our Raise the Radio campaign, where it's the first piece of swag with our new call letter, CFUZ. Everybody loves the CFUZ. And we're giving away a mug with a $20 donation. And we have a limited number. They're numbered collector's items, we're calling them. We're never going to make that mug again. Lots of tricks we've learned from other places. For instance, CJSW, huge resource. Did a lot of bouncing ideas off of Mike Atkinson, and he's more than willing to talk to anybody about that kind of stuff, and he's a wizard of the marketing. So incorporating a lot of their ideas, and it just makes a lot of sense. So some general advice, I would say it took us a long time to nail down all the details of our Raise the Radio campaign, from all the little minutia of the design to the dollar amounts to what swag we were going to give away, who would we go after for donations, who would administer the program. In the end, it's a lot more work than it seems, especially for a group of people who are fairly inexperienced at what we were doing. But it's a very quick learning curve. For anybody who's had community involvement before, it's a pretty natural progression, just doing it for a different purpose. So advice is give yourself lots of time to plan, so that it comes out looking professional. For us, that's the most important thing. We don't want to, because we don't have a tangible thing, because we don't have a studio, because we don't have a terrestrial signal yet, we don't want to be seen as the gang of people who are just looking to collect some money and just having fun, screwing around. That's not what we are. We want to make sure that everybody sees us as a viable, professional group of people who are really working towards something. And I'm not saying that people don't see us that way, but it's very important to us that we project that image, because that's how we want to be perceived in the community. So, have regular boosts, like these short-term promotions like we were talking about, helps momentum a lot, and keeps you relevant in the social media, not just because you're saying the same thing over again, but you got something different going on, and people are interested in what's different. So yeah, that's all we have. We're new, and we have some ideas, but we're also, in a position where we know that we're doing most of the learning instead of the teaching. So while I appreciate Luke asking us to do this, we're more than happy to talk to anyone who's got advice for us in terms of fundraising and moving forward in that way. So if anybody has anything they want to chat with us about, feel free to contact us at info@peachcityradio.org, or check out our website. There's lots of ways you can contact us. Please get in touch. Thanks.
There we go. Pushing the button to get the mic to work and it just wasn't turning on. So, but we're back, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to very quickly wrap up the presentation. We are at 1:05. So we're going to jump through the last couple of hoops. Actually, no, it's like that. So, you folks should be able to see. Right. Let's see. I'm going to put up this. And then this. W. Mike had some fantastic advice for everybody. There's Peach City Radio. They've also had some fantastic advice. Now, the radio rallying call is, like I mentioned earlier, it's very important to strike that balance, and I think that was actually echoed in Mike's. And I think, realize that Dave isn't on FM right now, but I think his growler idea and working with the cheese, they were fantastic ideas and definitely worth checking out. So yeah, talk to other stations, see what they do. There are lots of stations that do funding drives. Now, CFIU in Kingston actually, as part of one of their Radio Fund ideas, put together the Find Your Voice campaign. Now, this is taking the key concepts of a funding drive and applying them to marketing. So they phoned up 120 odd, 150, I forget how many. They phoned up a lot of local businesses and said that, you know, they're doing this drive, we'll knock 20% off right off the top if you're willing to pitch in for a year. And, you know, that could be, you know, let's say it's, and they have a lot of ideas. There is, in the, not on the desktop feed, but just under the shared files, is this final report as well as the advertising book. So please check them both out. It's very much worth the read. So please look at that. Now, do you folks have any questions? I'm actually going to come out of this and back to this. If I can. I have no idea how to work this. All right. So yes, at this point we're open to questions. Okay. I'm going to give you just another couple of moments for any questions. If not, if we're all good. All right, well, in that case, thank you so much, everybody, for participating. Oh, Michael's sending a message. I was just such an eager beaver. Oh, there we go. But it was a question. Well, as I mentioned, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. There's only so much that we can cover in an hour and 8 minutes. But this will be available online afterwards. Please send us a message if you have any questions, or I'll talk to other folks in the sector. And we're more than welcome to field any questions that you might have. We are also possibly considering developing a funding drive handbook, because we're such big fans of handbooks here at the NCRA. It's sort of what we do. So yeah, thank you. I'm gonna turn it off. So if there are any last questions, this is your last chance, or shoot me an email.